In June of 2020, Apple announced Apple Silicon and promised the transition from Intel would take about 2 years. The actual transition took about 3 years, but finally, the Mac lineup is complete, and there's something for everybody. At WWDC 2023, Apple unveiled the new 15-inch MacBook Air, a new Mac Studio, and the long-awaited Mac Pro. I've just published a review video on the 15-inch MacBook Air. You can click up here to watch that. This time, it's time to cover the Mac Studio. Who is it for, and should you buy one? Have more questions than answers? Don't worry, that's what I'm here for. Hi, I'm MICHAELJOSH, your gadget matchmaker, and over the last decade, I've made it my job to show people around the world that tech can be easy, fun, and exciting. On this channel, I give you special access to the products I review, the events I attend, and all the interesting people I get to meet along the way. So, if you're shopping for a Mac and can't decide which one to buy, subscribe to this YouTube channel and I'll help you find the right gadget to match your needs. In this video, we'll take a look at the new Mac Studio. Before we begin, an extended unboxing video. Just so you know, I actually still film unboxing videos all the time, but sometimes I choose not to use them, or sometimes I just breeze through them. I'm going to make an exception for this video because I really love how the Mac Studio is packaged. Mine shipped in this brown box. We just tear on here to open it up and reveal the actual box. There's another seal we have to break. I think you have to lay it down like this and then lift this up. Will you look at that? Tucked in this square is the Designed by Apple in California packet, and inside, a user guide and one large Apple sticker. And now for the fun part. The Mac Studio is nestled safely in here, and to get it out, you just need to pull in the direction of these arrows, outwards basically. And now I can lift my beloved Mac Studio out of its box. Inside here is a power cable. Last but not least, let's tear off this paper wrapper to reveal it in all its gorgeousness. That unboxing was definitely satisfying, and I love how Apple uses 100% recycled materials in its packaging. The Mac Studio doesn't come with a display, a keyboard, a mouse, or a web camera, which, if you're like me and want to curate the experience, is a great thing. My chosen setup is like this: monitor, Apple Studio display, Apple Magic Keyboard and Magic Mouse, web camera, the Opal C1. Don't you just love when an integration just works? I've been using the Opal C1 for a while now, and this might just be my favorite partnership of the year. You see, I've been on the lookout for the perfect web camera and thus far have been rather disappointed, but I've been hearing a lot of buzz about the Opal C1, so when they reached out, I was definitely excited to try it out. From its packaging to its industrial design, one would almost think Opal C1 was an Apple product. Just look at how pretty it is. Unlike typical webcams, this one isn't cheap or plasticky. It's made from aluminum. I have the white model, and it has this splattered paint texture, but you won't even notice unless you look closely. And that's what I love most: the attention to detail, even if it's just the little things. For example, take a look at this magnetic camera cover. If you flip it around, there's felt on the other side to protect the lens. And we haven't even gotten to video quality. But as I always say, the proof is in the pudding, so why not we do a sample recording, shall we? What if I told you that this was already it? This is a recording using the built-in cameras on my $1,600 Apple Studio display. And this is a recording using the Opal C1. Notice how much better the quality, how much softer and creamier the bokeh. With quality this good, I don't know how I'm ever going back. If you're like me, who'll go through the trouble of wiring up my studio cameras just to look good on my many weekly video calls, you definitely have to check out the Opal C1. Whenever I review a video, I talk about how sensor size is so important. Well, Opal C1 has potentially the largest on a webcam to date. And for that creamy bokeh, it's got an f1.8 lens. And if you'd like to tweak it some more from the app, you can also just go in and adjust things like exposure, contrast, even vibrance. parts for the best results. Speaking of the app, the feature I love the most is called Loop. You know, if maybe you needed to step away to pee, you can pre-record yourself and then loop that video. Just press and hold on this red button, nod your head a little bit, maybe blink your eyes, and when you're done, let go of the button and the video will loop while you take care of business. No one will ever know. If you'd like to step up the quality of your video calls, or if you're purchasing a computer like the Mac Studio that doesn't come with a web camera, check out the Opal C1. It comes with its own mount. You just screw it on like so, and it goes on any monitor like this. It's available in black and white and retails for $250. I'll put all the links in the description box below. You know what I love the most when shopping for a Mac computer? It's choice. Whatever your needs, whatever your price range, there is a Mac for you. And if you're looking for a desktop Mac, there are 4 options. Let me break them down for you. My favorite, the iMac, is an all-in-one. It comes with everything you need, and it starts at a sensible $12.99. The rest are BYO DKM devices. Bring your own display, keyboard, and mouse. The Mac Mini is the most affordable of the bunch, starting at just $5.99. The Mac Studio looks like a big Mac Mini, but it's insanely more powerful and is more pro-user focused. It starts at just under $2,000. And finally, for those who need the most power and performance, there is the Mac Pro, which starts at just under $7,000. Definitely one for someone with deep pockets, which brings us to the question, who is the Mac Studio for? The quick answer is for folks who rely on demanding apps, those who value time saved for things like video editing, rendering 3D projects, or compiling code, those who get value from more powerful GPUs and better sustained performance. That's why the Mac Studio is powered by the most powerful of Apple's silicon chips, the M2 Max and the M2 Ultra. It offers configurations of up to 24 core CPUs, 76 core GPUs, and 196 gigabytes of unified RAM. I've said it in the past, the one thing I value the most is time saved while rendering videos, particularly if I'm trying to rush to beat a deadline or an embargo. So let's bring back that same export test that I did on a couple of recent review videos, featuring a 15-minute and 24-second review video. My 16-inch i9 Intel MacBook Pro took 1 hour and 22 minutes. My 15-inch MacBook Air running an M2 chip and 16 gigabytes of memory took 23 minutes and 27 seconds, while my 16-inch MacBook Pro with 64 gigabytes of RAM and an M2 Max processor took 8 minutes and 24 seconds. Somehow, my Mac Studio, also with 64 gigabytes of RAM and an M2 Max chip, was even faster at 7 minutes and 53 seconds. Even if it's currently very hot and humid here in New York. And that's probably thanks to the thermal architecture of the Mac Studio. Fun fact, Apple Silicon is so efficient that many machines don't even need fans. Those include the MacBook Air, the iMac, and the Mac Mini. Fans, of course, come in handy when you're pushing your CPU and GPU for an extended period of time. For example, exporting a long video. Inside the Mac Studio, there are double-sided blowers that suck air into the Mac Studio from these grills on the bottom of the machine. The cool air then passes through the components that need cooling and is blown out through these grills on the back of the machine. The fans don't turn on unless they're really needed, and even when they do, you might not even hear them. One last note on power, I don't have the M2 Ultra Mac Studio, but looking at all these numbers from Apple for transcoding, color grading, and 3D rendering, you should expect even faster times. Which is a good segue to another question I get asked a lot. Should I pay that $2,000 extra for the M2 Ultra model? Well, let's take a look at what you get for $2,000 more. The M2 Ultra model is actually heavier because inside it's got a copper cooling system instead of an aluminum one. But you definitely want even better cooling considering M2 Ultra is 2 M2 Max chips fused together. The 2 ports up front are now Thunderbolt 4 ports instead of just regular USB-C. Everything else is down to power. Higher cores, higher core CPUs, GPUs, higher storage, and unified memory. All of this translates to a few minutes or maybe a few seconds of time saved, so it's worth it if every second lost means money lost. Otherwise, I think most users will be plenty happy with the M2 Max model. If you're like me and have a lot of monitors and accessories that you need to plug in, you'll probably want the Mac Studio also. Whereas the iMac has 2 or 4 USB-C ports on its back, 2 of which support Thunderbolt 4, and the Mac Mini has 2 or 4 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, gigabit Ethernet, HDMI, and 2 USB-A, the Mac Studio has 4 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, 10 gigabit Ethernet, which is a $100 upgrade on the Mac Mini, 2 USB-A and HDMI on its back. And in front, 2 USB-C ports and an SDXC card reader. Power users will love all these extra ports, and since I've probably taken up about 90% of my ports, I figured why not show you how I use them. The HDMI port is for an HDMI cable which connects to my teleprompter. One USB-A port is connected to my Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro, which is my switcher for live streams when I want to film at my desk. Sometimes I have up to 3 cameras connected at the same time. I have 2 Apple Studio displays, so that's already 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports taken up. Another Thunderbolt port is taken up by my Elgato HD60S Plus game capture card, which I use to capture gameplay footage, or when I want to use my excellent Apple Studio display as a monitor for my Nintendo Switch. Ethernet is obviously plugged in so I can take advantage of Verizon's 2 gigabits down, and the last USB-C port is for my Opal C1 webcam. I'll usually plug in my Sony card reader because my camera uses CF Express cards, and usually this other port is for a lightning cable or when I need to connect something else, or for a USB-C cable to download my voiceovers from my DJI mic. Having grown up in the 90s, it's almost impossible to fathom that a computer this powerful can be this small. While larger than a Mac Mini, this guy is incredibly smaller than any desktop tower, and because of its size, there's definitely enough space for it on a desk. Of course, it being an Apple device, it's sleek and stylish too. The enclosure is made from a single block of aluminum. Underneath and on its rear, there are machine-cut grills, and overall, it's a handsome machine that will go with any space. I've never done it, but it's worth pointing out that the machine is still small enough to fit inside a backpack in case you needed to transport it. So, is the Apple Mac Studio your gadget match? The vast majority of users should buy an iMac or a MacBook Air. But if you would consider yourself semi-pro or pro and require more power, then a Mac Studio or MacBook Pro is definitely worth checking out. And in that category of devices, the M2 Max chip offers the best value for your money. Get a MacBook Pro if you're always on the road. Get the Mac Studio if more of your high-end work is done at a desk, whether that be at home or office. I love my Mac Studio, and I know you will too. It comes with the GadgetMatch seal of approval. And that was the Mac Studio. If you love Apple content, we've got a lot more coming your way, so make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel and hit that bell icon so that you get notified as soon as we publish new videos. Follow me on social media for all the behind-the-scenes fun stuff, and for news and updates, make GadgetMatch.com your daily habit. Until the next video, I'm MICHAELJOSH. Thanks for dropping by.